Welcome to my review of Suzuki's Jimny. Jimny is the smallest, the least expensive, proper four-wheel drive money can buy. And what makes it a proper four-wheel drive? It's got low transfer gearing and plenty of clearance.
I'm Andrew St Pierre White. Join me as I share my passion for building four-wheel drive trucks and then travelling to the remotest parts of the world.
So, welcome to New Zealand. The Jimny has been loaned to me by Trekker Adventures. They rent out vehicles. Thank you very much to them for the loan of this one. They've equipped it for camping stuff in the back, an enormous rooftop tent on the top, which looks a bit odd because the rooftop tent is only about half the size of the entire vehicle. But I think that if this vehicle can perform well in this environment, then anybody who's going to buy one, whether they want to drive around the mall or want to take it camping somewhere, I'll be able to answer all of those questions. How good is it at all of those things? One of the things about the Jimny that I think I'm most impressed with is actually its ride. Now, I expected it to be very choppy and uncomfortable because it's such a short wheelbase, but it's not. It's not on the tar, it's not even on this gravel road. Now, it's not a particularly rough gravel road, but it feels good. It feels, you know, I'm really quite impressed with this ride, even on gravel. The suspension is solid beam axle, live axle, like you get in very few vehicles these days, front and back, like a Land Rover Defender. Traditionally, vehicles with solid live axles have vague steering, with the exception, interestingly enough, as far as I'm concerned, of the G-Wagon. 70 Series Land Cruiser has got quite vague steering. It's not vague to the point where it's a problem, it's just when compared to independent suspension. This has vague steering, just like they do, but not badly vague. It's a live axle, pretty well set up, steering's good, but a bit vague and not a lot of feel through. This might sound simplistic, but one of the best ways of telling what kind of a clearance a vehicle has is just by looking at it, and not by looking at the manufacturer's measurements, because of course the manufacturer is going to take the absolute optimum measurement on a flat surface, whereas just by walking around and looking at it and looking underneath, one can get a very good idea of how well this thing is going to pass over uneven terrain. So if I do something as simple as put my head underneath and have a look around, see if there are any important bits like transmission cases that are sticking down and could be very vulnerable to damage, and well, there's not very much at all. It should have a small turning radius. Let's see how small it is. Gearbox is part-time four-wheel drive with high range four-wheel drive and low range four-wheel drive possible. So main gear stick into neutral, from 2 high into 4 high with one click, and then to go into low, I push it down and I push it all the way back, and I get an indicator on the dashboard that I'm so rock crawling nice and slow. Let's see how she does.
Brakes, discs at the front, drums at the back. Tyres 195/80 profile 15 inches, a good size. And the fuel tank at 40 litres is disappointing.
It's easy to drive, it's effortless, it's incredibly tight turning circle, it's making this ground look very flat, and amazingly that even with this tent on top, it's not throwing itself around particularly much.
I need to go and find something that is going to be a little bit more challenging than this.
So the ride is extremely easy to control, and very, very low RPM.
Hang on a minute. What about the elephant in the room? This is a very small vehicle. How small?
I've not seen it with my own eyes, but Gwyn doesn't know what we're getting. She has no idea what we've swapped the Defender for.
A couple of days ago at the airport, I found out.
Well, it looks to me like the channel asked and you've delivered, eh?
Will we, you got the keys. Will this lot fit with our camera equipment inside the little Jimny? Oh yes it will. Look at that, simplicity itself. Is it going to be good enough for two people to go on a serious camping trip? So far the answer is yes, amazingly, because I didn't think I would be saying yes at this point. Okay, let's pack it.
Plenty of room. Plenty of room.
Yeah.
For a hobbit.
You know, I think she was saving up that line.
Oh, Jerry, packing has never been my strong point.
It's absolutely perfect. Well done. You packed very well, my darling. It's done. It's perfect. It'll just push it as it closes. It'll push those in. Perfect.
We're in.
Amazingly.
It's seriously
It's
so
actually
cool.
amazing. I thought this would be terrible. Cool. Oh, look at that.
Ooh. It's all shiny and new. I see the first of the problems.
Okay, just slide your seat forward a bit, Gwynny. If you move your seat forward, there's enough space.
There we go.
And then you'll be able to get a tilt on it. Okay, okie dokie. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. I just said, I want one of these as my little run around Perth. I haven't even driven it yet. It's so silly, it's wonderful. And everything's slightly over the top, but not too much. Just a bit. So everything's been given so every little switch has got they've given it a little pump up, a little bit bigger and a bit sillier than it needs to be. Okay, we're off. We're on our way to a place called Monora Lakes. There's a trail here that should give us a little bit of opportunity to test the vehicle.
I've been told that it's a grade 3 off-road drive. Just what we need once the horses have passed. But alas, not really difficult for the Jimny at all.
Go up there or up here? Let's try this climb. The car works well. It's very easy to drive off-road. It's actually amazing for such a small engine to be able to operate at such low RPM. I'm not even low range, I'm just on the high end of the auto box. I'm afraid I haven't really been able to find anywhere where I can give the Jimny a good old off-road test. Everything I've tried up to, this is a kind of level 3 trail, and it's just walking it, but it's not a difficult trail even at level 3 standards. It's not a difficult trail. So my conclusion is off-road, this thing will be an enormous amount of fun and will probably surprise a lot of people who might look down at it and, well, how can that possibly be any good? I actually think that in almost all terrains, with the exception of very steep climbs, this little Jimny will do brilliantly. And the only reason why I say that steep climbs, short wheelbase vehicles traditionally struggle with steep climbs because the vehicle's weight pivots on the rear axle and it lifts and takes weight off the front, and therefore you lose traction. Apart from that, I think it's great. Comfort-wise, we've been driving now this morning on and off for about 3 hours. The seats are quite supportive. I find I don't know what to do with my left arm. It's always kind of flopping around everywhere. Actually, the seats are good. I give them high marks for the seats. But man, would they be wonderful if they just had a little, you need something here. Because they're not, I'm not tired. I don't have a back ache or anything like that. I could do long stretches in this car with no difficulty at all, which is a bit of a surprise again because it's not particularly roomy, but it's comfortable. It's nice to drive on a long trip. The vehicle is showing a little bit of a foible on something that's bugging me, and it's actually happened quite a lot. The gearbox won't change down. It's now, I'm now doing 80 kilometers an hour at 3,500 RPM, and it won't change gear.
It turns out that the problem is with me. It's an override switch on the gear stick. Can be bumped accidentally, but once I knew what it was very useful for driving on mountain roads.
I found the Achilles heel of the Jimny. It's its gearbox. So when you're driving on a mountain road where speeds vary at around 90 to 100, 110, down to 90, down to 80, back up to 90, that kind of thing, where it's a bit hilly and a bit turny, the gearbox just doesn't know what to do. It'll slacken off a little bit of a hill, so you give it a bit of gas and it'll change down, not one gear, but 2 gears. It doesn't need 2 gears, but it'll go, bah! And then it'll scream at 5,000 RPM even after you go over the edge and you take your foot off the accelerator to ease back. It'll be doing 100 kilometers an hour, screaming at close to 5,000 RPM. And the only way to get it to actually change now to a higher gear, you take your foot completely off the accelerator and wait, and then it'll change down. It is, to me, it's a deal breaker. It's a deal breaker for this car because actually, I'm loving the days we spent with this car. I think it's just a lovely little thing, and it's delivering on so many things. But it's a gearbox. One can have optional rear seats. Look at this. Isn't that pretty cool? But unfortunately, if you decide to go with the rear seat option, then you have to put up with this. But this is part of the vehicle that annoyed me so much. It drove me, both of us, to distraction. I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
The material that you've used at the base of the load area is a kind of plastic that is incredibly slippery. So no matter what you put on it, flies around. It's like a Lego in a Tupperware. It is also equipped with lane change warning, so if you do go over a lane, it beeps and it flashes some lines on the dashboard and a little yellow thing and distracts you. Surely it's easier to look out of the window and actually see that you've gone out of the lane than it is to look at your dashboard and see it. I'm sorry, I cannot see a good reason for lane change alert. So thankfully there's a button where you can turn it off.
But I want to readdress the elephant in the room. How small is it really? I need to compare it to something really small. I know, Kate. Anything standing next to Kate tends to look rather big. Not in this case. And look at the colours these things are made in. I mean, no manufacturer is making cars with such interesting colours. I mean, look at it. So, given its size, can it be converted, used, adapted for overlanding? I'm so tempted to say no, but actually it could be. You see, the challenge with all overlanders is carrying enough weight, fuel, water for long distance trips. It's little, it's small, it doesn't have a high payload. So where are you going to put the fuel and water? You're going to have to put it in a trailer. On its own, without anything behind it, I would say no. It's just too small, payload too low for an overlander. But imagine this, a really compact trailer with really big wheels behind this thing. It would make an amazing little overlander. Because it's really good off-road and you need to do very little to it. You put a trailer with wheels larger than this, it's going to be fantastic to tow, to pull. What a great solution that could be. I say hats off to Suzuki for building an off-roader. Not an ordinary SUV, not a boring vehicle, not a dull vehicle, an off-roader, a proper off-roader that just happens to do everything else that one would do with an SUV really, really well. Well done to you for recognizing that amongst us are four-wheel drivers that love driving off-road.